Sup, you guys, and welcome to another episode of the Variety Views. I'm the Variety Vendor, and I'll be reviewing right now WWF In Your House Ground Zero. And this happened in September 7th, 1997. And the tagline was, that's the bottom line. You got a picture of Stone Cold right there. And I do believe this was around the time where Austin was really starting to become more and more of a babyface because I do remember, like, right after WrestleMania, he was still a heel. There were still some heelish tactics, and this is one of the great things about Austin is that, and I did start to appreciate Austin as a character. Like I said in my in the SummerSlam review, I did say that Austin had this great character, and not just that, but he is such a talented performer that I just grew an appreciation for him, especially around this time. Um, Now, he was supposed to appear here, and I do believe that he was supposed to have a match, a rematch with Owen, but that didn't happen. So instead, he was there to relinquish one half of his tag team titles. And the other one was given away by Dude Love earlier in the night. And then Austin gave it away, and then I do believe he stunned Jim Ross in this episode. Well, in this pay per view. Now, after that, so like him stunning a babyface announcer, he's still in the transitional phase into becoming the babyface. And that's such a weird thing that Austin, even when he was a babyface, he's never changed his demeanor or his actions. He would still go after babyfaces and heels, and that was great during the Attitude Era because there was a lot of gray characters, but at the same time, it sometimes confuses the audience. And sometimes somebody gets over and becomes a megastar while costing someone else's career who maybe had a chance in becoming a big star at some point. Um, so yeah. Now let's get to the card. We had Brian Pillman going up against Goldust, and the stipulation for this match was if Brian Pillman won, he would get to have Marlena for 30 days. Um, and it was weird because they dropped the whole Brian Pillman in a dress until he wins a match, because that was the whole point. Like right after SummerSlam, Sergeant Slaughter said to Brian Pillman, "Look, you have to keep on wearing a dress until you win a match." And he came out here wearing his old ring attire, didn't come out wearing a dress. And he defeated Goldust thanks to Marlena, who accidentally hit Goldust with. Well, she didn't really hit him. She dropped it and dropped her purse that had a brick in it, and Goldust used it. Brian Pillman used it behind the referee's back, and he pinned Goldust. And as soon as Goldust came to, he went berserk. And Pillman, dragged Marlena out and took her into the car, into his car, and just drove away. And Jerry Lawler saying like. Pillman has turned his vehicle into his own portable motel, and it was like, he was being a heel, but at the same time he was like such a funny heel. As much as people just love Bobby Heenan, I loved old school Jerry Lawler just as much, if not more at some points. I just loved his color commentary at that time. After that, we had Brian Christopher going up against Scott Putski. And the whole this was a weird type of storyline. Brian Christopher, keeps on denying that Jerry Lawler is his dad, and Jerry Lawler keeps on denying that Brian Christopher is his son. And Brian Christopher went up against Scott Putski. Jerry Lawler keeps on interfering, and there's even at one point Scott Putski's dad was was it Ivan Putski? I do believe it was Ivan Putski, the Polish Hammer. Yeah, Ivan Putski, and God bless him. Like Scott Putski had the look. He had a great body. He was taller than his dad. And he had long hair. He fit the bill for a 90s professional wrestler that would go far in his career. But for some reason, he never clicked. I do believe that the problem was he never got the chance to jump out of his dad's shadow. They keep on mentioning he's Ivan Putski's son, and they keep on showing video packages. I think that's one of those things that really shackled his abilities in actually propelling into becoming a bigger star or a bigger name. And plus, besides that, he is a little bit explosive in the ring, but at the same time, it's not to the point where his repertoire really engages with the fans. He does, hit a really good drop kick, suplexes and all of that sort of stuff, but he never really engages with the crowd, which really made him for a boring babyface. Even though that he had it all, except for the connection to the fans. As for Brian Christopher, I would say the same thing, but at least Brian Christopher had that tangible quality that would make the fans really go. I don't think it's just the fact that he is Jerry Lawler's son, and Jerry Lawler was a great heel at the time, but the fact that Brian Christopher has that look of a douchebag, and his gimmick was a douchebag at this time. So this was like early Miz. I would say like this is what the Miz is right now. Is Brian Christopher? It's like this douchebag that he thinks he's better than everybody else. So, the match itself was nothing special. It was just, it was just there. And it ended by countout when Scott Putski, legitimately, I believe he tore his ACL. He landed wrong when he did like a dive to the outside. Much like Big Cass's a freak accident that happened a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago. It kind of happened with Scott Putski. He just out of nowhere. And afterwards you kind of saw his his kneecap kind of roll to the side, and it was grotesque looking. So Brian Christopher won via countout. Which is weird. Like they should have just stopped the match. I think they didn't need to give it like a countout win for Brian. After that, we had Savio Vega against Crush against Farouk. This was the first ever triple threat match on WWF pay-per-view. Now, around this time, WWF was really trying to, they were really trying to top ECW, which is weird because ECW is not even it's like the third biggest promotion at that time. And it wasn't even like close. It was way further down than WWF and WCW. But at the same time, the WWF kind of wanted to win at something. If they're not going to be, number one, they're going to be a damn good close runner-up. So they decided to do this triple threat, I guess, in response to ECW's 5-star matches that they've been having in three-way dances. So it was like, okay, we're gonna start doing this. Now, this wasn't the first ever triple threat match. The first ever triple threat match happened prior, and it was for the Intercontinental title. I do believe it was around July. It was between Goldust, Owen Hart, and Triple H. And Owen retained his Intercontinental title at that time. That was an okay match. This was not. This was really, really bad. They had no chemistry. Savio Vega is probably the best wrestler in this match, but that's not saying much because he is a good wrestler when he's wrestling a guy like Razor Ramon or 123 Kid, any of those guys, guys who can actually lead. I did say this before about Bulldog. Savio Vega is kind of the same thing, although he's a little bit better than Bulldog because he can do more stuff. He can actually lay out a good match. But here, it was like wrestling with two broomsticks. Farouk is good. He's a good power player, but beyond that, he really can't do much in a match. Same goes for Crush. Was never really a good wrestler. So Savio Vega had the unenviable task to try to carry two crowbars in this match, and God, this was a mess. And he won. Los Barriquas win the Battle of the Leaders, I guess, between Nation of Domination, DOA, and Los Barriquas. Although I don't think this is a victory worth celebrating. After that, we got Max Mini against El Torito. No, not Los Matadores El Torito. This was early El Torito. It was a completely different character. It looks like a dude that ate El Torito. And he faced off against Max Mini. Max Mini is a good wrestler, but at the same time, he is such a great babyface, and he always gets beat up. He always gets beat up to the point where you feel sorry for this, 3'5", and it just, he's getting destroyed, and the way his head would bounce off the mat and him getting stiffed in the ring, it's just, it's crazy looking. Now, I never was a fan of, midget wrestling, but there were times where I'd be like, that's interesting. And I kind of sometimes be like, I like this. I like Hornswoggle. I'm enjoying El Torito. I'm enjoying those parodied gimmicks that they would bring out, as a midget, like Mini Vader or Mini Mankind, or Mini Taker or Mini Angle. I love those little segments. No pun intended. But that's the key word, segments. I don't really like watching a drawn-out match between midgets because it's never... the problem is with a WWE midget match is they always rely on comedy. There are great midget wrestlers out there, but WWE would rather bring in ones that are there for comedy. They would, roll around with the ref and just do comedy spots and stuff like that. They are entertaining at some points, but sometimes it's like, yeah, if we've seen one, it's like we've seen them all. It's like, it's that commercial again. It's like when you're watching, a movie on like a certain channel, or you're watching your favorite TV show, and then in between there's like this commercial break, and it's the same commercial break over and over again. And it's like, okay, we get it. And yeah, and not just that, but I've seen this thing in a lot of lucha matches as well, where it's like, okay, how many times are you gonna do a Hurricane Rana? It's like, how many times are you gonna do an arm drag? It's like those are the only two moves that you will ever see in lucha matches at this time in WWF. So Max Mini won at the end, and yeah, nothing really to gripe home about. After that, we got the Headbangers winning the WWF Tag Team titles from the Legion of Doom, the Godwins, and Owen and British Bulldog. This was really shocking watching this. I was like, what? Really? I really didn't expect this. And it was quite, it was quite a match. Like, I really enjoyed it. I thought, I thought that the match itself was I think it was one of the first to be an elimination fatal four way tag team title match, and I didn't expect. I didn't expect it to be this good, especially in the early days of the Headbangers, because it was really good. It was really enjoyable. It was one of the better matches on the card. And even going up, when leading up to this match, I was like, why are you even doing this? Like, why not even do two tag matches, like a mini tournament, two tag matches, and then the winners of those two matches will face off against each other on Raw. But instead, what we got was, okay, Headbangers against Legion of Doom, against Godwins, against Owen and Bulldog. And I was like, okay, I guess Owen Hart and Bulldog are winning back the tag titles. But no, that's not what happened. Austin came out and spun, and he got in and he spun Owen Hart around while he was about to win, stunned him, and then one of the Headbangers, I do believe it was Mosh, that pinned Owen and got the win. And I was shocked. I was like, holy shit. And Headbangers won. So I guess the reason why they did that was to kind of give the fans something. Because throughout, up until this point, only heels were going over. Even though, one of the matches, the triple threat match, you had all three heels. I guess Crush was the de facto babyface. But where was this? Hold on. Where was this play? Louisville, Kentucky. Okay. I don't think there's a Puerto Rican demographic there. So yeah, Savio Vega is a heel there. And Crush, I do believe he's from somewhere in the South. Yeah, it does say he's from Hawaii, but I don't think that he's really from Hawaii. I think he's just built from there. But no, apparently he's from Hawaii, from Kona, Hawaii. Interesting. Alright, Portland, Oregon, that kind of makes sense, but I don't think he's from Hawaii. Huh. Station Japan. Okay. What about his parents? I can't find anything about his parents. Nope, nothing. Okay, so anyways, back to the card. Yeah, the Headbangers, Headbangers winning. It kind of was shocking them winning the tag titles because, even looking back, I do remember that I watched this pay-per-view when I was a little lad, watching this show, and I really forgot about this match. And then when I was looking back, and a couple of months ago, watching this card, watching this pay-per-view, I was like, Headbangers against Legion of Doom against Godwins against Owen and Bulldog. Well, Owen and Bulldog of course are gonna win back the tag titles. Au contraire, Headbangers won, and the next night on Raw, they dropped it to the Godwins, which was so why did you let them win the tag titles? It was like I said before, it was a feel-good moment. So, let's see. After that, we got Bret Hart against the Patriot. Okay. here's the thing about Del Wilkes. I remember really liking the Patriot when I was younger. And looking back, he was a good wrestler. He was a lot better than people give him credit for. It's just too bad that he didn't have a longer stint in the WWE. And he had his best match against Bret Hart here. And the reason why he got this match is because he beat Bret before. I do believe he just rolled him up while Shawn Michaels kind of distracted Bret. And not only that, but Patriot also defeated Owen and defeated Owen and Bulldog in a tag match while teaming up with Ken Shamrock. And both really good matches. And this match here was really, really good. I would even, dare I say, match of the night. And I wouldn't say like Bret Hart carried Patriot, but I would say like they had a great match together. And this was really, really good. I would say like I would recommend this to anybody who's a fan of Bret Hart, because this is not only A plus material, but it also kind of shows you how great Bret Hart is at making somebody look like a main eventer. Because around this time, the Patriot just came in. He was a guy that was known to have had a good career in Japan, and they showed video packages of him in Japan, and there were like stupid moments during the video package where they would show his face, and I'm like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of him coming out in a mask if you're gonna show his face? Like, even like if it was for a split second, it's still visible. It's not like blink and you will miss it. It was just like one of those things where it was like, so that's how he looks like. Kind of looks like Bart Gunn. Okay. And even I remember when I was a kid, I thought that was Bart Gunn. Like, I was like, so that's what he's been doing. So yeah, great match. Bret Hart won by submission and retained his WWF title. This was a really, really good match. Like I said before, you gotta check it out. After that, we got Shawn Michaels against The Undertaker. Now, leading up to this match, it made sense. Like, the Shawn Michaels came in, and he kind of screwed The Undertaker, even though that it kind of looked like an accident at SummerSlam. But as the whole saga, unravels, it's like, oh, so that's what it was all about. Because I feel like Shawn Michaels screwed The Undertaker knowingly, because even though they didn't outright say it, and this is what I love about wrestling back then, is that implication can be, implication can be more than enough to make a storyline interesting. They don't even have to come out there and say like, yes, I screwed him. It's like, oh, implication is enough. That's all we needed. Less is more. And that's exactly what we got. It was like, hey, you screwed this guy. What, you didn't see that match? It was an accident. And he would like smile. So I think the reason why, like, with the story was like, Shawn Michaels screwed The Undertaker because he wanted Bret to keep the title, and he's beaten Bret before. That's WrestleMania 12, the last time they met. So that's an easier opponent for Shawn rather than The Undertaker in his peak performance. So that's me filling in the gaps. Now, leading up to this match, Shawn, he actually hit The Undertaker with a steel chair, and he busted him open. Actually, twice. He did it twice. And there was one match, and this was the birth of D-Generation X. One of them was him against Mankind. They had a match on Raw, which was, I do believe it was no DQ. And I love that match. That was a great, great match. Some people love the Mind Games match. I think that the match that they had on Raw, the one where Rick Rude makes his re-debut on Raw, that is such an underrated match. That's such a great match because not only is it brutal, there are brutal moments. Of course, you're going to expect that with 90s Mick Foley. But also, it was one of those matches that told a really good story of Shawn Michaels really trying to prove the fact that he is not afraid of the Undertaker, and leading up to the end where Undertaker is coming out, and then it's like, all right, we'll see you next week. Cliffhangers, great fucking cliffhangers, and also, it was also the birth of DX, where Triple H comes out and helps out Shawn Michaels win the match, and the week after that, they have a tag match between Triple H and Shawn Michaels against Mankind and the Undertaker. And Mankind and the Undertaker are, coexisting. They're working together. They're cooperating, which is interesting to watch. Shawn Michaels working as a heel for the very first time. And in this match, in the Ground Zero match, Shawn Michaels is absolute, healing it up. He's getting thrown every which way, and it's such a, he really made the Undertaker look like an unstoppable monster, because it really takes for a certain talent to really put over the strength of someone like the Undertaker. Usually you would see a guy that would be like, okay, he gets chokeslammed and it's just like he sells, like he yells or something like that. Like think of like a Bradshaw or a Kurt Angle, But Shawn Michaels really made you believe that he's getting mauled by the Undertaker. And this is, this is right, like when I'm watching this, I'm like, absolute master. He's an absolute master in that ring. The only reason why I wouldn't say like this match deserves to be match of the night is because it had no ending. It ended in a no contest. They kept on beating the crap out of referees left and right until the entire locker room emptied out, and then they tried to separate them. Now this is the first time that we got to see Air Taker in such a magnificent fashion, because I do believe that he did it before. He did that dive before on an episode of Raw, but this is the first time that it's actually memorable, rather than it being like, okay, that's just like one of those Raws. I think it was one of the go home shows to I want to say Canadian Stampede. Could be one of those. Or maybe prior to that. Maybe it was the one before the go home to Cold Day in Hell. Could have been that. But I do remember it was one of the episodes of on Raw that where he did the the dive, and I'm like, why? Why would you do that? But here it made total sense. Like he tried to take out everybody, and he landed right on top of Vader's head. And then he chased Shawn Michaels and the rest of DX away. And it was such a great moment, and they repeated it over and over again. They replayed it a couple of times, and it made absolute sense to do that. And it's much more different than nowadays, where it's like, oh, this guy threw a punch. Let's replay it 1,000 times and 1,000 more in slow-mo. This deserved, a replay. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see. The card itself. Okay. Now here are my final thoughts. The Brian Pillman Goldust match was good. It was a good opener. You had a shocking ending to the tag title match. And you had a really excellent match between Bret Hart and the Patriot for the WWF title. And you had a really awesome match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker that ended in a no contest, but it was a good It's one of the better matches to end in a DQ or no contest. To have no finish, basically, because it absolutely delivered, in a sense that I wouldn't have it any other way, because they left the door open for a sequel to this great match, and that they did. They had a better match a month later, and we will get to that very soon. So, overall, my rating for this would be, I would say, buy it on DVD. This deserves to be bought on DVD. If the for a better aspect ratio, for a better quality, and I do think it's one of those pay-per-views that deserve to be on your shelf. It's an enjoyable pay-per-view because it has a hidden gem in it, and not just that, but it had a fun, and the final three matches really elevated the show. So yeah, and with that being said, rate, comment, favorite, help, please subscribe, and check out my next video where I'll be talking about something else.